Brian, it's been just over a month since we last spoke when you were appointed as interim chairman. How do you reflect on the last few weeks?
Turbulent. On the very positive side, on the field of play, which is really where it ultimately matters. Thanks to Martin and Shaun and the players and everyone behind them, it's been a really good month, really positive month. And we're back in a situation where we're winning the league titles in our own hands again, which it didn't look like a month ago. And on the transfer window, doesn't really matter what I think, but the manager is positive about it. So we've got all to play for, and that's the main thing for the club at any time. On the strategic changes that I spoke about, and that work is ongoing. To some extent, it's been sidetracked by the focus over the past few weeks on the transfer window, but it's very much active and going ahead, and we will have quite a lot to say about that in the near future. Obviously, on the immediate issues of supporters and the frustrations and in some cases the problems that exist then there hasn't been as much progress as I would like to see, and again that is something which we now turn our attention to.
When we spoke, one of the key messages that you spoke about was unity around the club. We're now in a situation ahead of the weekend's match where supporters groups are calling for a fan boycott. So clearly we don't have unity. What can you and the club do in order to get us to a position where we are unified?
Well, look, when I did that interview, I spoke about unity, and I spoke very specifically about unity within the stadium. Now, I don't expect that suddenly all the issues go away. What I did ask for was, and what I think the great majority of Celtic supporters would like to see, is unity behind the team. And so let's sort out these other issues. And I'm no way dismissing them or marginalising them. On the contrary, we want to engage with them. But the short-term imperative is to support the team. And it's up to each individual to make a judgment of whether a boycott, being outside the stadium or inside the stadium, helps that. But that's for people to judge. What I can say is, and I accept that there hasn't been as much engagement as I would have liked over the past month for a range of reasons, but most recently mainly because of the focus on the transfer window. But what I can also say is that we have reached out. We've reached out to every supporters group, and I hope these meetings will take place within the next week or so, and then let's see if we can go forward. There is no reluctance on my part to engage. And I hope that can be put into practice very soon.
So just going back on that, you have reached out to fans groups. How much do you hope that, in a sense, getting around the table can sort out the issues at hand?
Well, to some extent, I think the other side of saying unity inside the stadium is one thing. We're not going to agree on everything about some of these issues, but we can talk about them. But don't let it distract from what's going on inside the stadium. That's all I'm asking for. But I don't see any insuperable barriers. What I want to see is a full Celtic Park with a great atmosphere and everyone behind the team, which is what I've experienced over the decades that I've been going to Celtic Park.
You said you've reached out to fans groups and meetings are perhaps going to take place as early as next week. How confident are you that as Celtic supporters you can find common ground and we can get back to having a full stadium?
Well, just want to tell you a wee story. I was in the centre of Glasgow last night. I bumped into 4 young guys who I guess would have been at the weekend standing up saying they hated the board. They recognised me. We had a good conversation. I explained some of our difficulties in addressing these issues. They listened, they put their point of view, and at the end of the day they said thanks for listening, and I said thanks for talking to me. And I think if I could do that with every Celtic supporter inside the ground, we'd reach the same mutually respectful conclusion. And that's not quite possible, but it's the kind of model I want to see. And I want to, that we focus a lot on particular groups of supporters, but there's tens of thousands of Celtic supporters inside the ground. And they, as I expressed, many of them feel the same frustrations about communication, about having an input to the club, about knowing what's going on. The thing that comes up repeatedly is, we want to know what's going on. So that's the channel that I really want to develop over the next few weeks. Of course, deal with each individual group, but also deal with the broad mass of Celtic supporters and give them what they are totally reasonably asking for, is information, understanding, and seeing a route back to where we should be, which is a full stadium, all behind the team. That's all I want. It's all I've ever wanted.